Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone on our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita call. Happy to see you again after a couple of weeks. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. So we have been discussing Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, and we had discussed till text number 24 earlier. In Purushottam month, we took a detour. We discussed chapter 15, Purushottam Yoga. So now coming back to chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, where we were actually discussing. So overall till now, what we have discussed in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, it starts with Arjuna's question. Arjuna says, I want to leave everything and go take sannyas. So Arjuna is telling Krishna that you have been telling that jnana, renunciation, is better. So if renunciation is better, if jnana is better, basically, jnana leads to renunciation. So if you think jnana is better, why you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? So better I will leave everything, I will go to forest, and in that way I will not be entangled in work. But Lord Krishna tells sannyasa or renunciation does not mean renunciation of activity. Real renunciation means renouncing the result of one's activity, not getting attached to one's result of the activity. And then in the last set of verses, what we have discussed, Lord Krishna is saying, even though I do not have any prescribed duty to perform in this world, still I act. Why? To set an example for others. Because if I do not engage in performing my duties, the whole world will follow me. They will not engage in their prescribed duties. So one need to act as a teacher in the sense to set an example for others. So being a teacher, not the cheater, not guiding other people in a wrong way, showing them the wrong path, that one can give up all their activities and just be free from the entanglement. Because Lord Krishna says everybody has to perform certain activity. Even to maintain our lives, we have to do something. Even we are breathing, that's also activity. You eat, that's also activity. You walk, that's also activity. So ultimately, everybody is forced to do certain activities. So how to perform our activities so one does not become entangled? So the last set of verses, Lord Krishna explained, perform, or I am even performing my activities even though there is no prescribed task. So set an example for others. So we'll continue from text 25 onwards now. So in text 25, what does Lord Krishna say? Saktah karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharatah kuryad vidvams tatha saktas chirikshur lokasangraham. Chikirshur lokasangraham. So as the ignorant perform their duty with attachment to result, saktah karmani avidvamso. So as the ignorant person perform their activities with attachment to results, a learned man similarly acts, but without attachment. So why does he act? Chikirshur loka sangraham, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So a learned person, he does not become entangled with the result of one's activity. So he acts without attachment, just for the sake of setting an example for others, just for the sake of leading people on the right path. So text number 25 and 26, actually, they talk about the difference in a Vidwan person, in a intelligent person, enlightened person, and asakta, one who is attached. So these two verses, Krishna is talking about how a enlightened person will act, and on the contrary, how a attached person, asakta person will act. So we need to understand the difference between Karma Kand and Karma Yoga. So because Arjuna, in his mind, he's thinking, okay, if I have to act to set an example, but then I will get bound when acting. So Krishna is explaining in this verse and the next verse that one should act just to set an example for others without getting attached to the results. In that way, one will not be bound. So if one who is not learned and is attached, he acts because of attachment. So same way, one who is learned and not attached, that person should act to set an example only. So the ignorant and attached person refers to Karma Kandi, and learned and detached person refers to Karma Yogi. So both of them are acting, and in their mind, the ultimate purpose is liberation eventually, right? Both set of people, they are acting, and ultimately their goal is to get liberation. Everybody in this world, even though they are doing their things, they're thinking dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that is the goal. Even the person who is a karma kandi, he also thinking about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Ultimately, I want to get liberation. So eventually they both seek for that goal, but they are not understanding the urgency how to act. So the Karma Kandi, they are working for their immediate sense enjoyment, whereas the Karma Yogi, or further stage of as a Bhakta, one is working for Krishna, other is working for himself, and the other person, one is working for himself, other person is working for Krishna. So that is the difference. For example, when Prabhupada built so many temples, right? When Prabhupada established this Juhu temple, the Bombay Juhu Beach temple, Radharas Bihari temple, that is a very famous story. When Prabhupada wanted to build that temple, he purchased the land. And after signing the contract, that landowner, he wanted to sell that land to a different person also. He wanted to double cross. Even though he signed the contract, he took some initial money also, but now he thought, let me sell this land to somebody else and I can get more money from that person. So he wanted to sell that land to another person who wanted to build a big hotel on that property. So Prabhupada wanted to build a temple on that same land. Another person wanted to build a big hotel on that land. So in both cases, let's say some construction is going to happen, workers are going to get hired. So workers are going to work, they are going to build the walls, floor, and all that. They're going to use the ingredients, same ingredients as wood, marble, cement. So all these things is common between both, but the difference is, on one side they are working for somebody to build the temple, and in the other side they will be working for somebody to build a hotel. So what is the difference? Difference is in the consciousness. Building a temple means people will be given knowledge there. It will help to free them from their entanglement. But if the hotel is built, what is that purpose? Hotel is built which will engage people more in their sense entanglement, sense enjoyment, and it will entangle them further. So that is the difference in two type of activities. One is working for Krishna, another is working for himself. One is helping people to come out of their entanglement, another person is putting people further more into entanglement. So Krishna is saying, do your activity without attachment, just to set an example for others. And in early days of ISKCON, becoming devotee means joining the temple full time, even though it's a single person or somebody married with family. Ultimately, everybody was becoming as a full-time devotee, right? Joining the temple. So they, even though they go out for work, they are living in the temple or temple property, just working for temple in that way. But now as the movement matured, the focus was more on congregation based, how one can still live in the world and practice spirituality. So no matter if somebody is in a brahmachari stage of life or grihastha stage of life, it's not the matter of who is superior, who is inferior. Ultimately, everybody is commander in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army. So one who knows about Krishna, who can teach about Krishna, is the advanced devotee. So it's not the matter of which particular ashram one belongs to. That one belongs to as a brahmachari. He has given up everything. He has become brahmachari. So in that way, he is superior. Or somebody is living in a grihastha, in the household life. He is fallen or he is in Maya. So it's not like that. So ultimate purpose is, if somebody is living a life while developing his relationship with Krishna, doing the work while living in the world, but not getting attached with all these various things, then he is also progressing towards Krishna. All of us being as a grihastha, we have our horizontal relationship and we have our vertical relationship, right? All our horizontal relationship means all our worldly responsibilities, relationship with our family, our social circle. Vertical connection means ultimately we want to develop our connection with Krishna. So while living as householder life, working in such a way that we do not become entangled, working to set example for those who are right now entangled in only their horizontal relationships, right? These people who are materialistic people, they are just worried about their family life, their immediate family members, their social circle. They have no concern about building their vertical relationship with Krishna. So one should always remember that ultimate goal is to develop our relationship with Krishna, develop love for Krishna, and bhakti helps us to achieve that goal. So bhakti is our life, not that simply bhakti is part of our life. Actually, our life is part of bhakti. Maybe we have done some bhakti in previous life also, now we are continuing, and maybe we have to continue further if we do not achieve the goal, the ultimate goal within this lifetime. So bhakti spreads over multiple lifetime many times. So our life is part of bhakti, and different varna and different ashrama, they simply play different role for the society. So this text 25, Krishna is saying, ignorant person, he is attached to his activity and the result of activity, whereas an intelligent person, he acts without attachment, just for setting example for others, leading others to the right path. Now text number 26, very important verse. uh, Text number 26 and 29 both have actually same theme, a very similar theme. So text 26, Krishna says, na buddhi bedham janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yuktah samacharam. so as not to disturb the mind of ignorant men attached to the fruitive result of prescribed duties. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sort of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So, what is this verse trying to say? Krishna says, yes, these ignorant people, they are attached to the result of their duties, result of their activities. So we know that, oh, this person is wasting his time. He is too attached in this world. He is just doing some Karma Kanda rituals and all. He is getting entangled in this world. But we should not induce them to stop their work altogether. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, we should engage others also in all sort of activities for their gradual development in Krishna consciousness. So do not disturb the intelligence of others. Rather, dovetail all the activity in Krishna service. Because one cannot simply just give up all their previous activity, what they have been doing, all of a sudden, and then expect them to become 100% Krishna consciousness overnight. That's not possible. So rather than inducing somebody or criticizing somebody that, oh, you are in Maya, Prabhu, you are in Maya, Mataji, you are wasting your time, you are wasting your life. One should try to dovetail their activities, slowly engaging them in Krishna conscious activities. Why? Now just consider, they have firm faith that performance of some Vedic duties, some Karma Kanda rituals will bring some material reward, whatever they desire. So if the faith of such people in those ritual is broken altogether all of a sudden, without first developing that faith in the higher principles of devotion, so in that case, they have nowhere to go, right? So they have not developed their full firm faith in devotional activity, and we destroy their faith in the other Vedic rituals also. They completely become broken and they completely lose their faith altogether. They think, oh, this is all waste of time only. This is all these Vedic knowledge, all the injunctions of scriptures are all waste only. So rather than first breaking their faith, first we need to slowly develop their faith in the devotional principle. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, Lord Krishna is speaking to Uddhava in the Uddhav Gita. Lord Krishna is saying one very important verse here. Tavat karmani kurvitah na nirvidyeta yavatah mat katha shravanamadhova shraddha yavan na jayate. So as long as one is not satiated by the fruitive activities and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc., one has to act according to the regulative principles of Vedic injunctions. So what is Lord Krishna here also telling in Uddhav Gita is that first they need to develop their taste in the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam. Right? Then they can slowly cut down their karmakandi activities, their other fruitive activities. Not that they cut off all other activities without first awakening this taste. So let them continue doing the other karamkanda rituals also. Somebody has firm faith in worshipping any particular Devi Devata. And now we come to them, we go to them and we start preaching about Krishna consciousness. Oh, Krishna is the supreme. This Devi, that Devata, they are all servant of Krishna. You stop doing all that and you just worship Krishna. So in that way, whatever faith they have developed over the time, maybe some previous impressions coming from their previous lifetimes, they will be completely lost altogether. So rather, better is to tell them, okay, you are chanting this Devi mantra, or you are chanting the name of Shiva, you are chanting the name of Ganesha. So you continue, you add chanting the name of Krishna, you add chanting this Maha mantra also. So they need to start engaging in Krishna conscious activities also. And slowly, when they develop more and more knowledge, better and better understanding, then they will give up all other Karma Kandi activity, all other ritualistic activities gradually. What one should not disturb other person's faith altogether, because people are at different phase of their lives with different goals, right? Not everybody is at the same level, not everybody has the same goal also. Maybe just as a example of a student, somebody is interested on in doing only a high school diploma, somebody else is interested in doing a bachelor's degree, somebody is interested in getting a master's degree, somebody is interested in doing a PhD degree. Not everybody is at the same level, so everybody cannot act and on the same platform. Everybody is at a different phase of their life. Just like where we want to go, how fast we want to go, it depends on individual person. Suppose you arrive on the airport, you had a flight from Detroit to Delhi. So your flight landed in Delhi. Now, as soon as the flight landed, one person, he grabs his carry-on bag, he gets out of the plane and he just walks to the immigration checkpoint, does get done with the immigration, goes to the belt and grabs his checked in bag and goes out, takes the cab and just goes to his home. Right? He is very focused on I need to reach my home. On the other side, there's another person. As soon as the flight lands, he takes his bag, comes out of the flight. Now he is looking all around on the airport. He is standing at different places and taking selfies. Then he goes, after doing his immigration, maybe he goes to the duty free area. He want to do some shopping, spend some time there. He goes to some food courts. And then slowly, after spending all this time, taking a lot of photos, just watching around, then he comes out, he take his cab, and after that also he's just stopping at different places, taking photos and all. And then ultimately he goes to wherever he need to be. So in both example, what is that? One person, his goal is very clear. I want to reach my home. I don't want to waste any time in all these different distractions. Another person, he doesn't have a very clear goal or a clear timeline. He is just taking his own time, doing his things. Same way in this world also, we can see some people, they are just going with the flow, right? They are just wasting their time in so many other different activity. But there are some person, Krishna is referring to those people as intelligent people who have a very focused goal. In second chapter also, Krishna says one who is with one pointed attention. So they have a very clear goal and they're working towards that goal. But everybody is not at the same level. So that's why some people, rather than focusing on the highest devotional principle, they are just trying to get some material enjoyment, some material gain in this world by performing some rituals, some karma kandi activities. Another example we can understand from another example is two students. Say now that exam time is coming up, one student, he is very sincere about his studies. He knows this is exam time. I should not be wasting my time on playing and sleeping extra and all that. So he is very focused on study. Another student, he studies for 30 minutes, then maybe watches 2 hour TV. He goes and plays for a couple of hours, then comes back again, studies for a few minutes, 30 minutes, and again he does some other things. So one student, he is very clear about the goal. Another student, he is just hanging around thinking, oh, I just need to get it done with this. So we have to understand people are at a different level in their lives, and we do not have to disturb the faith. Yes, we do not want to let them do whatever they are trying to do. As Krishna says, who is most dear to Krishna? Somebody who is speaking this message to others. And Mahaprabhu says, भारत भूमि ते होइले मनुष्य जन्म जार जन्म सार्थक करी करो परोपकार मोरी आज्ञा गुरु होया तारो ई देश जारे दाखो ताहे कहो कृष्ण उपदेश. So of course, we have to follow the instructions given by Krishna, instruction given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have to give this higher knowledge to others. We have to share this knowledge to others. But at the same time, we also do not have to become fanatic about that and disturb the faith of other person. If somebody is very reluctant is or very resisting to take to this principle seriously, so we have to also cooperate and better slowly engage them, dovetail their activities, bringing somebody to temple and maybe engaging in some devotional activities. Okay, you are more interested in just doing some activity for a mind of gaining some material prosperity, material gain. Okay, that's fine. You can give some donation for Krishna. You can come and help in kitchen cutting the vegetables. You can come and help washing the pots. Slowly dovetailing their activities, because when they engage in serving activities, they gain that sukriti, and eventually they start taking to chanting of holy name, they start reading Bhagavad Gita, they start listening Krishna Katha, and slowly with time they develop higher intelligence, higher consciousness, and they progress in Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada engaged all different devotees with different talents in different services. Right? It's not that everybody has to do one same activity only. Somebody is more interested in cooking, they have some talent in cooking, Prabhupada engage them in cooking. Somebody has more interest in making paintings. Okay, you paint for Krishna. You make painting of Krishna and his wonderful leelas. So in that way, based on somebody's talent, engaging them in that particular activity, dovetailing their activity in Krishna service. Every talent, whatever talent we may have, every talent can be utilized in Krishna service. Somebody has talent of singing, somebody has talent of cooking, somebody has talent of stitching clothes, somebody has talent of making jewelry, somebody has talent of painting. So everything can be utilized in Krishna service. And by dovetailing, people will they will be gradually elevated. So if somebody is not interested in directly coming to Krishna, so better engaging them gradually. So in that way, Krishna is saying here, do not disturb the faith of other, but better is to show them by example and gradually engage them in the spirit of devotion. Now, text number 27 to 30, Krishna is talking about another very important principle here, that one should not think himself to be the doer. And one should not be developing that attitude of that I am the enjoyer of the result and I am the proprietor of whatever I am gaining in this world. So text number 27 is a very famous verse. Prakriteः kriyamanaani gunah karmani sarvashah ahankar vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. Anybody will like to recite this verse? Text number 27.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Vijay Prabhu, go ahead.
Pratyeh kriyamanaani gunaha karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartatmaham iti manyate.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes,
I can do, Prabhu.
Yes, one after another. Malati Mataji, please go ahead.
प्रकृति क्रियमाणानि गुणे कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विभूतात्मा कर्ता अहमिति मन्यते.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. Yes, Prasad Prabhu.
प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. So this verse is very, very important verse, and everybody should try to memorize this verse. Prakritehe kriyamanani. Everybody can recite. We will do one line at a time. Prakritehe kriyamanani.
क्रियमाणानि
Gunah karmani sarvashah.
कर्माणि सर्वशः
Ahankar vimudhatma.
अहंकार विमूढमा
Karta aham iti manyate.
कर्ताहम् इति मन्यते.
Okay. So the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So karta aham iti manyate. So one thinks that I am the doer, I am the karta. Why? Ahankar vimudhatma. The spirit soul, which is filled with so much of false ego, who is bewildered, vimudhatma, who is ignorant, who is foolish. So such person, because of ego, they think I am the doer. But in actuality, all the work is carried out by the influence of three modes of material nature. So here Krishna is saying you are not the doer. Who is the doer? The Prakriti, the modes of material nature. They are doing the action. But as an ignorant person is bewildered by ego, he thinks I am doing the action. So now the question comes, if modes are the doer, then what is the point of saying, oh, you do this, you do that, if everything is done by the modes only? And on top of that, if everything is done by the modes of nature, then why I have to get the reaction? Sometimes we say, oh, you have to suffer the reaction of this work. So if I'm not even doing any work, modes of material nature are doing everything, then why I have to get the reaction? So we have to understand the scriptures, they give philosophy in a context, and that context has to be understood. So what Krishna is telling here, you do not think that I am the doer, because soul is not the only doer. Yes, soul is definitely one of the doer, but soul is not the only doer. Because if we were the only doer, then actually if we see everybody is working to become happy, but then still why we don't get that happiness? Why one is having misery, one is having disease, one is getting old? Why ultimately one has to face death? Because nobody wants these things. So if we are the only doer, everything is in our control, then one should not be facing all these situations. So Krishna says, you are not the only doer. Ultimately, everybody is forced to act by the influence of the modes of material nature. So what does it really mean that you are not the only doer? It means is, yes, we are the doer, but we are the initiating cause. For every action, behind every action, there are multiple doers. What are these doers? In summary, we can say there are three main parameters. In 14th chapter, Krishna talked about 5 different parameters here, but those 5 can be further summarized as 3. Those 3 doers or the causes of action are the Jeev, Jagat, and Jagadish. Okay, so remember these 3J concept: Jeev, Jagat, Jagdish. So Jiva means the spirit soul. The spirit soul is the initiating cause. Then Jagat is the facilitating cause. And Jagadish is the sanctioning cause behind every activity. Okay. So soul is initiating the action because of the particular desire. We start every activity because of some desire to do certain thing or to gain certain thing. And that desire itself is the starting cause. And then Jagat means facilitation. Krishna is giving us the facility in the medium of this nature. Krishna is providing everything in the nature to facilitate that. What is that? This body, right? This body is also a facility to do that task, to satisfy that particular desire. So in the 15th chapter, which is later on actually in Bhagavad Gita, so Krishna here, there also discusses that as the air carries aroma, the living entity continues to carry the different conceptions of their life. And in that way, the spirit soul is going from one lifetime to another lifetime with the different conception, different impressions stored in their memory. And based on those different impressions, which we call as the what is that? Anyway, so all these different impressions, based on those different impressions, the living entity is forced to act, is desiring for a particular activity. So soul is the initiating cause. Just the example of a woodcutter. So woodcutter is cutting the tree, and woodcutter is using an axe to cut the tree. So in reality, who is cutting the tree? Is this the woodcutter who is cutting the tree, or the axe which is cutting the tree? So if we say, oh, ultimately the axe is hitting the tree and axe is cutting the tree, but then same time the axe cannot move on its own. Yes, it has the capacity to cut the tree, but it cannot do it on its own. So yes, axe is important. So, or one can say, is axe important or cutter important? Ultimately, both are important. The woodcutter cannot cut the tree with his own hands only. So axe is also important, but the axe cannot cut the tree on itself. The axe needs somebody to hold it and hit on the tree. So both are important. So in this case, both are the cause, but the woodcutter is the initiating cause. So another example is, let's say now I want to speak. So who is speaking? Is this I speaking or the speech organ which is speaking? So without the speech organ, I cannot speak. So the speech organ is the tool. But if I have no desire to speak, if I want to do a monavrata, the organ on itself cannot produce the sound. So somebody has to have the desire to speak, and this organ of speech is the tool. So the soul is initiating cause, and there are multiple other doers to perform the task finally. And everybody is acting largely depending on the three modes. If somebody is situated in the mode of goodness, they will be influenced by that and perform activities based on goodness. Somebody is situated in the mode of passion, they will act based on that. Somebody is situated in ignorance, they will act based on that. Right? Another example is just like somebody has a passion to climb the Mount Everest. So who is climbing? Is this the soul climbing the Mount Everest or the body climbing the Mount Everest? One can say it is actually the body who did the climbing, but body is the tool. Body is governed by the laws of material nature. The soul has particular type of desire, which is also governed by the law of nature actually, but not to the full extent. So in that way, because in the material world, the soul is also governed by the modes of material nature as soon as it comes in contact with the body. In a particular body, it is forced to act in a particular way. Somebody is in the body of a hog, that person will not be interested in eating halwa. He is acting based on the influence of the body. In that body, he is interested in eating stool only. So in this material world, all the options which are given to us are actually all the wrong choices, and we have to pick one out of those wrong choices only. Just like a student, he is in the exam, he is given a question paper. Now in the question paper, there is a question. What is the capital of India? And it's a multiple choice question. The choices given are Mexico, New York, Washington. So all choices are wrong only. And one has to pick one of those choices. So whatever answer the student pick is going to be wrong only. So same way, when we are as a spirit soul, when we are in a particular body, we are forced to act based on the influence of the body, based on the influence of the three modes of material nature. And that's why we say in this material world, all the choices are wrong only because one is forced to act in a certain way. So in this material conditioning, soul is just going on selecting the wrong choices. Only options are provided by material nature at the platform of ignorance, which is forgetfulness of Krishna. So in this material body, in this human body, this material nature is pushing to act in a certain way. But now we need to learn to act in responsible way. So Krishna here is saying, you are not the only doer. Somebody who is in ignorance, somebody who is influenced by the false ego, ahankar vimudhatma, karta aham iti manyate, he starts to think himself to be the doer. If we see a child is dependent on his parents, without parents he cannot do anything. A student is dependent on his guru. And in this society, even though we may think I am working, but we are dependent on so many other people. You are working in your office. To complete your work, you are dependent on so many other people. In spiritual life also, to run the temple, to run any particular program, we have to take help from so many people. We cannot say, I am the only one who is doing this particular activity. We are always associated with others, and others are contributing to that action. So one should not think, I am the doer. Even after coming to spiritual life, if somebody holds to that concept, I did this, I am doing this thing activity, then that is influence of false ego. So this body is also provided by Prakriti, by material nature, which is under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So one has to act based on its nature, definitely. Somebody is a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Brahmana. So somebody has to act based on their nature, but better to dovetail that nature in Krishna's service. So if somebody think, I am having a Kshatriya spirit, yes, you fight for Krishna. Or if somebody think, I am Vaishya, I have to run some business. Okay, you do your business, you give the result of your business to Krishna. Somebody is just in a spirit of serving others, as helping others in their activity. So you support many other activities. There are so many activities one can support in service of Krishna. So dovetailing our nature in service of Krishna. So body and mind both have certain inclination, not completely rejecting that nature, but dovetailing that in Krishna's service. Rather than thinking I am the doer, one has to come to the platform of acting at the level, thinking I am just serving to align my desire with Krishna's desire. So moving forward, Krishna, now in the next verse, Krishna says, one who is in the knowledge of absolute truth, knowing well that the senses are engaging with sense object, he does not get attached. So one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, he understands that these senses are engaging with their sense object only, and I should not get attached to this. So one understands that the senses and the modes of nature, they are interacting with each other. And in that way, the actions are being performed according to the nature. So he doesn't get attached to that. For example, a Brahmana is supposed to teach. But if we start thinking, oh, I am better than these people, I give so nice class, I give so nice instruction. So if in that way this person becomes proud, then he gets into bondage. So based on the way we have acted in past, the body and mind have developed certain conditions. Those are like our default setting, right? In every device there are certain default setting. So getting this particular life, we are coming with some default setting based on the previous impressions. So we have those default setting, but one doesn't have to stay with those default setting. We can change those setting. We can develop new nature. Right now we are acting based on those default setting, but more and more we acquire knowledge, we can try to change our default setting, means our default nature, and acquire a new nature. If somebody is a Shudra by default nature, doesn't mean one has to stay at that level. Rather than resenting on that, if he acts according to that, the person also can progress. So do not kind of completely resist the modes, but at the same time, do not get attached to the modes also. Take a middle way, which is dovetailing our nature in Krishna's service, and in that way, progressing further and further. And text number 39 is very similar to what Krishna was telling in text 26 about do not disturb the faith of others. Prakrite guna sammudha sajante guna karmashu tan akarshana vidho mandhan krishna vinna vichaliyet. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performers' lack of knowledge. So somebody who is completely under the influence of these three modes, they're completely ignorant, they're completely attached to their activities and result of their activities. But the intelligent person who knows the absolute truth, they should not unsettle them. Again, should not disturb their faith all of a sudden altogether, although understanding that their activities are inferior due to lack of knowledge. So one understand that yes, this person is entangled, he is in ignorance, and slowly, gradually, better is to dovetail their activities, bring them gradually to the higher platform rather than completely destroying their faith or completely unsettling them, disturbing them. So here Krishna uses the word sammudha. In some places, Krishna uses the word mudha. Mudha means one who is foolish, deluded. Sammudha, samyak rupena mudha, who is completely deluded. Like, we say Murak and Mahamurak, right? So Mudha is Murak, Sammudha is Mahamurak. So Krishna is saying Prakrite Guna Sammudha. Somebody has become a Mahamurak because of the influence of three modes. He doesn't understand what he is doing. He is completely attached to the activity. And because of his attachment, he is completely entangled. But still, one should not disturb such person, because by disturbing, one disturbs one's gradual advancement. As we know, the principle dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So if somebody is at least engaging in a religious way, in some religious activities, slowly they will gradually make progress. And ultimately, everybody is trying to find happiness, and they are trying to find happiness by performing certain dharmic activities also. And only one who is at a very, very spiritually advanced level, right? Somebody who is very spiritually advanced, they can survive only on spiritual happiness. Ultimately, everybody needs some happiness on the bodily level, on the level of mind also, on the level of intellect, on the level of body, on the level of mental, on the level of intellect. And then ultimate happiness is on the level of spiritual platform. But even though as we are practicing Krishna consciousness, are we experiencing happiness only at the level of spiritual platform, or still are we trying to drive happiness at the level of body, mind, intellect level also? Right? So when we are engaging in kirtan, when we are dancing and all in the kirtan, is that only spiritual ecstasy, or somebody is maybe feeling some happiness because of that physical activity also of dancing? When we are eating prasad, are we experiencing the transcendental bliss that I am eating prasad, or we are getting that happiness because of tasting those nice food items also? So is it only the spiritual happiness, or we are driving some material happiness during those spiritual activities also? So if it was purely at spiritual platform, right? If we claim that the happiness we are experiencing is only perfectly at the spiritual platform, then no matter how somebody is singing, if the happiness is derived from the Mahamantra, from the Kirtan, doesn't matter how somebody is singing, you should be experiencing that happiness. Then why we didn't need so nice tunes, so nice melodies, and different tunes, different melodies? Ultimately, we are getting some happiness, but it is mixed as a spiritual and material. We are driving that happiness, material happiness, in spiritual activity. Same way eating prasad. If we are getting that spiritual happiness in tasting that remnants, tasting that prasad, then we should have same happiness no matter what food item it is. You should be happy with eating only dal rice. Why we need also nice delicacies, nice food preparation, this samosa, kachori, rabdi, gulab jamun and all that? Just always eat dal rice and be happy, right? This is Krishna prasad. So the point which I am saying is, ultimately everybody is trying to find happiness, and only somebody who is very spiritually advanced person, only they can survive on only the spiritual happiness. Ultimately we are trying to get material happiness in the guise of spiritual happiness also. So at the sadhaka's platform, we want to give up the material happiness, but because we are in the conditioned stage, the spiritual happiness become manifest in material ways, and that is gradual elevation. So the overall theme of this verse is, yes, these people, they are trying to become happy in this world by performing various sort of activities, and they're attached to those activities, thinking they will become happy. Slowly, we should engage them in Krishna conscious activities where they can experience that happiness, and ultimately they will make gradual progress. Only very rare people are who come first day to temple, first time in contact of devotees, and they give up all the other activities and now start chanting 16 mala, reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, start attending Mangalarati and all that. Most of us have made gradual progress, and most of the other people also, they are going to make gradual elevation. So one should not be disturbing their faith or criticizing altogether their activities. Oh, you are doing this karma kanda, this is Krishna is saying that person is a fool, that person is a mudha, that person is a rascal, in that way, and they will completely lose their faith. So do not rush people. If person doesn't have capacity to renounce what one pushes to renounce, then it will be a hypocrite. So this means that the wise should not force their thought onto ignorant person by saying, see, you are the soul, not the body, and hence this karma is meaningless, give it up. Rather, they should instruct the ignorant to perform their respective karma and slowly help them rise above attachment. So in the earlier day of ISKCON in the earlier day of movement, the seriousness of somebody was seen as complete renounce, right? Somebody gives up their family, give up their house, they become full-time devotee, they start living in the temple. That person is considered as a bhakta, as serious for becoming Krishna conscious. Actually, the seriousness does not depend on where somebody is living. It does not depend on somebody is a brahmachari or a grihastha, but it depends on how much shelter one has taken, how much ashraya one has taken of Krishna. Because otherwise, the renounced person also may become proud. Oh, see, I am such a renounced person. I have given up family, I have given up job, I have given up this, that. And same way, Grahastha also may become proud, thinking, see, I am well situated in society. I am earning this much money. I am giving this much donation to temple. Because of my donation, the temple is surviving. The brahmacharis are able to do their activities. So that way, that Grahastha also may become proud. So one should not think himself to be the doer and should not become proud in that way. So even though people may be acting in Karma Kanda, but you act in Karma Yoga, so you become liberated and you set an example for others. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste our valuable time. So the another angle to understand why Krishna is saying this is do not disturb such people is that you will be wasting your own time, your valuable time on them. Let them continue with what they are doing and you utilize your valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. They know that ultimately Lord wants to have all the souls come back to him. And they are more compassionate to all those living entities, so they undertake all kind of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So is it a contradiction to what Krishna is saying? Right, we may saying that Krishna is telling do not disturb the faith of such people, then why we go and try to preach to these people who want to continue their life doing some so-called religious activities, some karma kanda activities? So are we contradicting Krishna? So actually it is not contradicting Krishna. Ultimately it is fulfilling Krishna's way only, because Krishna want all the souls to come back to him. Krishna knows that all these people are suffering in this material world and they need to return back to their eternal home. So when we approach other people, we are actually working on Krishna's task only. The analogy is the parent, they desire their sick child who is taking some treatment at home or at hospital to come back home from the hospital. Right? The child is in the hospital, he is getting the treatment. Ultimately, the parents are desiring the sick child to come back home. And the doctor is giving the treatment and they are ultimately facilitating the wish of the parents so that the sick child will return home quicker and safer. So same way the living entities are suffering in this world, even though the karma kanda activities, they will relieve them from some miserable situation in this material world, but the fast course of treatment is engaging in bhakti, engaging in Krishna consciousness, and the slow track of treatment is this dharma artha kama moksha. So the parent, as the parent want the child to actually take the fast course of treatment to recover quickly and come back home quickly, so same way, ultimately it's Krishna's desire that all the suffering souls, they should take the fast course of treatment, engage in bhakti, become free from their entanglement and come back home quickly, rather than taking the slow treatment of engaging in some ritualistic Karmakandi activities, going through this process of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Better engage them on the fast course of treatment. So that's why the devotees, they still, because of their compassion, they approach these ignorant people and try to preach to them about Krishna consciousness. Tell them, understand, you are not the body, you are the spirit soul. Our ultimate duty is to serve Krishna. So engage in Krishna conscious activities. So just understanding the balance here, right? One does not have to disturb somebody too much that that person runs away further from Krishna consciousness. And the next verse, text number 30, is also very important. We will leave it to the next session. We don't want to rush through that. So today we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. So let's see if somebody has any questions, comments, anybody want to add any point?
Just a short observation or comment on Karma Kand is part of scriptural knowledge.
Yes.
And I feel that calling those people ignorant again and again in these verses is kind of too harsh.
So this is Krishna himself is speaking, right? Krishna is telling ignorant because, see, the analogy is, even though the elementary school is part of education, right? Elementary school is part of education, and ultimately one need to move to a middle school, higher school, college degree, or if somebody want to move to even masters and PhD. But if somebody just gets stuck at the level of elementary school, he just want to continue going through the 4th grade, 5th grade again and again, he's just going through that. Will we call that student as very intelligent person or foolish person? So same way, Krishna is saying these people who are stuck with this karma kanda ritualistic activities, they are less intelligent. So in some places, Krishna uses the word less intelligent.
Yeah, that probably is better than calling it ignorance.
Yes. So sometimes, see, again, this is a talk at a different level. Sometime to inspire somebody, will say, see, you are such an intelligent person. You should not be doing this. Better you do that, right? Just to kind of as a fanning the ego. That is called fanning the ego. But sometimes Krishna says, okay, enough of fanning the ego. Now I have to be very straightforward and tell them you are a foolish person. Rather than doing this, better you continue doing that, or you engage in this activity. So that's why Krishna, he uses the word, sometimes very harsh words also. And the principle of using the harsh word is not to divert the person, but to remove the bubbles of our ignorance. Right? That's why Prabhupada also will use sometimes very strong words as rascals. These rascals are engaged in these activities. Why? Because Prabhupada is trying to puncture the bubbles of our misunderstanding, puncture the bubbles of our ignorance. And Krishna is doing the same thing here. Krishna is trying to puncture our bubbles of misunderstanding and ignorance. So even though, yes, Karma Kanda is also part of Vedic rituals or the Vedic scriptures only, but we should understand they are at much lower level, and one is continued to entangled in this material world. Even though somebody may go to Swarga by performance of certain activities, ultimately one has to come back. And Krishna will explain that later in 7th chapter and 9th chapter. Kshine punne mrityulokam vishanti. One has to fall down again in this material world when the result of their piety is over. So rather than go high for small duration, Krishna's goal is go high forever, right? From where you don't have to come back. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody has anything else to add? Okay, so please try to read these verses along with the translations and purports. Even though we discuss them, but it's good to, you also should read them in detail. Okay, so thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare